Welcome back. Now, yesterday on Global, we looked at the opportunities and challenges for a woman in India in 2015. Well, by midnight tonight, the glass ceiling in business should be broken, although not removed altogether. Each one of India's 1,500 listed companies will be obliged to have at least one female director sitting at its boardroom table. Well, good in theory, but even many of the new law's supporters say perhaps it won't work. Well, joining me now from Delhi is Poonam Baral, who's an economist and a campaigner who runs Will Forum India and a mission that helps promote women in leadership, and also from Mumbai, Shashi Irdi, Executive Director, Catalyst India WRC, which aims to expand opportunities for women in business. Thanks to both of you for joining us here on the programme. Poonam, to you first of all, is this a worthwhile initiative, do you think? Government-imposed targets, deadlines, fine for companies if they don't comply. Is that the right approach, do you think?
Anything that will improve corporate governance is the right approach, and corporate India doesn't have a very good track record on corporate governance. So if we have 500 million women in India and you cannot find 1,500 women board directors, then you will have to either try a compliance route, and if you cannot get compliance, then you will have to do a penalty route. But the real thing is that people in India, and especially the owner-promoter companies, which form 70% of corporate India, should embrace the essential essence of corporate governance, which is creativity, innovation, and wealth creation. That is the whole key to why you need women directors on the board.
It's interesting because you used a phrase that I've read you use before when you say that 8% of the world's population, if you cannot find qualified women from that, I say, go and change your perspective. I mean, how much does that perspective need to change in India, do you think?
It needs to change dramatically, because the perspective you have right now in the corporate boardrooms in India, and I think universally true too, is that everybody in the boardroom should look like me. There is some kind of a clone mentality. And what people do not understand is that when you're looking for wealth creation, you actually have to change your perspective. The way you define talent, the way you define meritocracy, the way you define qualified board directors, the way you define board effectiveness, the way you define capable board directors, that entire domain has to be changed, because the geopolitical volatility and the economic environment is moving very fast. So the perspective that needs to be changed is not with respect to women, but what is the value of women, and how do you use that women value to increase stakeholder value is what needs to be changed.
Well, I'll come back to that in a moment, but Shashi, let me bring you in. This deadline, critics say it has been rushed. What is your take on this?
I don't think the deadline has been rushed at all. There was more than 2 years almost given to companies to comply, and intentional leaders have definitely shown the path and appointed women on boards. Today we have, I think, close to 9.5% women on the BSE 200 boards, as per the census report released by Catalyst early this year. So it only shows that if leaders are intentional in their intent to appoint women on boards, they can go and find them rightfully so.
Are we clear? Are we clear what the penalties, when the government talks about penalties for companies, do we know what those are?
So I'm really not very clear on how much the implementation is going to be, but what I know is the range the penalty has is from 5 crores to 25 crores can be levied on companies not complying to it. And of course, SEBI can go ahead and define more penalties for companies. So companies must start taking it more seriously. The fact that they have not appointed women on their boards till date seems to me that they have not taken it seriously. Maybe some action really will help companies to look up and start really searching, widening their horizons and net to find the right women to get onto their boards.
Poonam, that is one of the worries, is that perhaps even companies that comply, perhaps they'll have relatives that they put onto the board. All that sort of, in a way, detracts from what is supposed to be the driving force behind this. How worried are you about the makeup of those women who get onto the boards for the companies that do comply?
The reality on the ground is that, you know, this is not something to worry about. This is something that we know is happening. People are not looking for good professional women. My inbox is full every day with women, thousands of professional women who aspire to be on boards, have an outstanding track record. Nobody's connecting with them. The simple reason is that corporate India is looking for comfortable women, safe women. The other way of putting it is invisible women. And that is not the way you do good governance. You put women who have a voice. You put women who are able to drive value. You do not look for a woman who's going to be invisible. And you know, when you put safe women, whether they are from the families or whether they are women who have a track record of already being on 11 boards, they are considered safe. The joy
let me ask
diversity,
Shachi exactly the same point. I mean, Poonam raising the worry that safe women, invisible women, will be the women that ultimately are appointed for those companies that even go along with this. Are you worried about that, that in a sense that they will just be invisible, not take on the men on the board?
No, I'm not really very worried about that. My take is that as long as women, whether they are from families or whether they are not, as long as they are competent, they are qualified, their values and ethics match the culture of the organization, they should be given a fair chance. And as long as initially it may seem like tokenism, but as long as they are effective on boards, it doesn't matter. The tokenism gets into an issue when boards are not effective, and ineffective boards are not a good sign for companies, because when the bottom line is to create wealth, and if boards are ineffective in that manner, then they have defeated the purpose of appointing the right person.
Poonam, let me cross, because we're nearly out of time, to Poonam, because I mean it is such a male-dominated society, business in India. I mean, this is a step, but how far away do you think you are from actual equality? Even Christine Lagarde was talking about the lack of women in the workplace in India only a couple of weeks ago.
Well, you know, I could use a slide from my presentation in 2010 on women on boards, and today I can use the same presentation and the figures will not have changed. A small change of 1% or 2% when you're talking about women on boards in India is not really what we're looking for. We should be looking like the kind of things like the UK is doing, for example, the 30% club. Or, you know, Scandinavian countries, 40%. After all, we are half the population, and there is no reason to say that we are not qualified.
OK, that's your hope.
Therefore,
let me bring in a final word for Shachi. Do you hope that, in a sense, this creates role models, others will follow, perhaps the timescale is not quite as depressing as we heard there from Poonam?
I'm very optimistic about this entire thing. We will have more male champions coming out from inclusive leaders who have appointed women on boards, and women who are active in the boards functioning will become role models for other women in the organization, thus increasing the aspiration of women who have joined workforce, and hopefully we should be able to change the pipeline structure.
Well, time has defeated us. Thanks to both of you there in Mumbai and Delhi.